Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I would do a little story time as in regards to why I stopped smoking marijuana and how I stopped. And I got this idea from a friend of mine. They had seen me from me not using to my peak of my using to, again, myself not using it. And they were really curious as to how I did that and why I did that, and so I thought I would make a video. So I'd say like in high school I smoked weed like maybe twice. That's it. And I never really enjoyed it. I never sought after it. It was just kind of like those two times it was like peer pressure almost. Like it's not like I went and sought after it. So then I like went to college here in Toronto, and if you watched any of my other videos you would know that I'm from Niagara. So I was living in residence in Toronto, and I like the first couple of months like I had zero desire to smoke weed at all. Like I just was not interested in it. I barely drank. But like I've never judged anybody who would smoke weed. It's just like it just wasn't my sort of thing. And so a couple months went by, and I started hanging out with these group of people, and they all never really smoked weed. They were all similar to me, like did it once or twice, but like never really stuck with it. And then we all like just sort of at the same time we would all go to parties together, and that was always like there, and like people were always offering it to you, and I kept saying yes, and basically I snowballed, and I got to the point where I couldn't even withstand like a half an hour without smoking weed because I'd get so sick. On average I'd be smoking about an ounce a day, so 28 grams, and I would smoke when I woke up. I would smoke before I went to class. I would smoke like on break during class. I would smoke after class. I would smoke before I went to sleep. I would smoke socially. Like it was just like I was always smoking. And if you guys have seen my other videos, like I really struggle with my mental health, and eventually it got to the point where my family relationships were falling apart because my family didn't approve of me smoking weed, and especially the amount of weed that I was consuming, and I was a mess. I was like failing classes. I wasn't going to class. I only like hung out with my friends and smoked weed. And like I was spending so much money on it. Like think about it, like $10 a gram. I was smoking like an ounce, so 28 grams. Like let's say like $150 an ounce. It was bad, and I was spending a lot of money on it, and like I would get like so high that like I would wake up in the morning and check my Snapchat, and I'd see like I'd gone to a restaurant, and I went on a drive with my friends, and I didn't remember any of that. So anyways, it got to the point where I couldn't physically survive without having it, and would get so sick. I'd be like on the bathroom floor like vomiting. I'd be in my bed because like I'd have such bad like cramps, and it was like I'd be magically cured by smoking weed. And but as soon as I stopped, I'd be vomiting and having stomach pain and body pain and headaches and stuff like that. So it was really bad, and I remember one day I had to do a night shift at work, so a 9 p.m. to 9 a.m., and I was like on the floor of the bathroom all night, like vomiting, and every half hour I'd have to get up and do something related to work, and then after that was done I would have to just sit in the bathroom, and I'd be vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. So then I went to the emergency room, and they told me that I had cannabinoid hypermitosis. I think I'll put the like actual name like up, but which meant like my body was rejecting marijuana basically, and that's from very high usage. And they've noticed an increase in that diagnosis since marijuana has become legal since complete 2018. So that was really hard. Anyways, my mental health deteriorated, and it got to the point where I just didn't feel like I had a reason to live, and an incident occurred, and I ended up in the hospital for basically 2 months. And I was at a hospital in a psychiatric unit, and then I was transferred to another hospital called CAMH here in Toronto, and I was in the concurrent disorders program, which is mental health issue as well as an addiction. And my addiction was marijuana, which seems really weird, but yeah. And so then I went home back to Niagara for a little bit, and I was fine. Like, I was staying clean. I wasn't doing anything. Like, I was staying sober. I would drink occasionally, but like I was overall I was staying sober, and I was really happy. And then I came back to Toronto for a little bit, and I started smoking weed again. And I was smoking a lot, and like I would smoke and sleep and smoke and sleep. And then it got to the point where I was eating upwards to 1,000 milligrams of edibles, and that was all I was eating for the week. And I went 3 weeks without eating that, and then again I crashed and I ended up in the hospital. Then after that hospital visit, I was prescribed a prescription called Nabilone, which is a synthetic marijuana, and to help wean me off, because I would get really bad withdrawals of like shakes, chills, body pain, migraine, vomiting, things like that. So I was on that for about 4 weeks, and then I stopped, and I was able to stay sober until now. So I've been sober for November, December, January, February, March, April. 6 months. Right? November, December, January, February, March, April. Yeah, 6 months. So I've gone without smoking for 6 months. I feel really good. So that's just like a little timeline as to like my marijuana smoking. Basically, I quit because I realized my body couldn't tolerate it, and it would counteract a lot with my mental health. And I couldn't do it anymore. I kept becoming hospitalized because it would deteriorate my mental health to a point where I was in a really, really dark place. And it would tolerate it, and it would counteract a lot with my mental health. And I couldn't do it anymore. I kept becoming hospitalized because it would deteriorate my mental health to a point where I was in a really, really dark place. And it was ruining family relationships. It was ruining my motivation. I didn't want to do anything. I just wanted my life to revolve around marijuana, and I was constantly I was always high, and that's not a life I wanted to live. So I just stopped. Cold turkey, I stopped. And yeah, that was basically how I quit. And I understand that's not easy for many people. It's just like the place that I was living, you couldn't have that with you. Like, it just wasn't tolerated. So that was very easy for me to stop. I definitely craved it, but it helped that I had the assistance of prescription medication to help me with the withdrawal. And people say like, oh, you never become physically addicted to marijuana. Like, you do. Like, if you're smoking a lot, like, you do. Like, you get like I find, like, I've heard that people get paranoid. I had a lot of trouble sleeping. I noticed my body was really, really hurting, and I'd have like muscle spasms and stuff. So like, you definitely become physically dependent, obviously on like depending on how much you are consuming. But yeah, so that's basically why and I quit. Was my mental health was garbage. I didn't see value in my life anymore. I didn't have motivation to go back to school. I didn't have anything except for weed, and weed was my best friend. And I had to realize that that's not a positive relationship, and that it's doing more harm than good for me. And that was a really hard realization, because that was my identity for a really long time. Like in college, I was the I was a stoner kid, and it I used to be proud of it. I used to wear it on my sleeve, and now I'm like so ashamed that that was who I was, and that's how people saw me. Yeah. So, just a brief recap. Why I quit smoking. It destroyed my mental health. It put me in a really dark place. Also, my reputation was ruined because people only knew me as the girl who was high all the time. My family relationships were ruined. I didn't enjoy myself being high. Like, there's just so many reasons why. And how I quit was I just stopped. I was restricted access to weed and all that stuff, and I just couldn't do it anymore. So that's how I did it. And I hope if you guys see this now and you knew me in college and stuff, that I'm sorry you had to see me like that. I really am. That's not who I am as a person. That's not who I want to be remembered as. And I'm totally different now. I'm doing well. I'm doing much better. Anyways, thank you for watching, and please comment, like, and subscribe. Please let me know what other videos you would like to see down below, and I will see you next time.